I was hiding in the cassava bushes behind Mama Adana's hut when they came. My hands were shaking so hard I had to press them into the dirt to keep still. It was past midnight, and the whole village had gone quiet in that wrong way, not peaceful, but like everything alive was holding its breath. There were 7 of them standing in a half-circle around her door. I counted. They didn't move like people. Their shoulders were too high, their necks too long, and when the moonlight touched them I could see they cast no shadows on the ground. They just stood there, perfectly still, waiting. Mama Adana's hut had been dark for hours, but we all knew she wasn't sleeping. Nobody in the village had slept properly for 3 weeks. Not since old Papa Chukwu disappeared from his own bedroom with the door still locked from the inside. Not since the Okonkwo twins vanished on their way back from the stream in broad daylight. Not since we found the fisherman's boat floating empty on the river with his net still full of fish and 5 perfect handprints burned black into the wood. 7 people gone. 7 people in 3 weeks. And everyone knew it had something to do with Mama Adana and that child. The thing standing in the center of the half-circle spoke first. Its voice sounded like it was coming from the bottom of a well. Adana. Daughter of the Red Earth. We have come for what belongs to us. I pressed my face closer to the ground. My heart was beating so loud I was sure they would hear it. The door of the hut opened slowly. Mama Adana stepped out holding a kerosene lamp. In the yellow light I could see how much she had changed. 3 weeks ago she had been round-faced and quick to laugh, always humming while she sewed. Now her cheeks were hollow. Her wrapper hung loose on her hips. Her eyes looked like 2 holes burned in paper. But it was what she carried in her other arm that made my stomach turn to water. The baby. It was wrapped in a white cloth, and in all the months since Mama Adana had brought it home, I had never once heard it cry. Not once. It just stared with those black eyes that didn't reflect any light. Even now, with those things standing outside, the baby's face was completely still. Calm. Almost smiling. You cannot have her, Mama Adana said. Her voice was steady but I could see her hand shaking on the lamp. She is mine. I found her. I am her mother now. The tallest one tilted its head at an angle that made my throat close up. You found nothing. You took. From the sacred grove. From the old place where your people swore never to enter. You broke the covenant your grandmothers made. My grandmothers are dead, Mama Adana said. And I have been empty for 15 years. 15 years of watching other women nurse their babies while my womb stayed closed. 15 years of prayers that went nowhere. When I found her in that forest, alone and crying, it was a gift. It was finally my turn. One of the figures made a sound that might have been laughing. It sounded like branches breaking. That child was not crying. That child has never cried. You heard what you wanted to hear, daughter of the Red Earth. You saw what your hunger showed you. I knew it was true. Everyone in the village knew it. The baby never cried. Never laughed. Barely moved. It would lie in its crib for hours with its eyes open, not blinking, just watching. And wherever it watched, animals would gather. Crows on the roof. Rats in the walls. Once, I saw 7 goats standing in a perfect line outside Mama Adana's window, all staring at the same spot where the crib was, none of them making a sound. Mama Adana pulled the baby closer to her chest. I don't care what she is. She is mine. I am keeping her. The figures stepped forward together, all at once, moving in perfect silence. Then the bargain continues, the tall one said. 1 life for each moon until you return what was stolen. This is the law of the sacred places. This is the price of theft. What bargain? Mama Adana's voice cracked. I made no bargain. The grove makes its own bargains. You took a life from the boundary between worlds. The boundary must be fed until the balance is restored. Your neighbors have already paid for your theft. The fisherman. The twins. The old man. The teacher. The girl who sold plantain. The weaver. The boy who tended goats. 7 names. 7 people. My sister's name was in that list. Chioma. She had been 11 years old when she disappeared 6 days ago, vanished from her own sleeping mat while our mother slept an arm's length away. I bit my hand to keep from screaming. Return the child before the next moon rises, the figure said. Or this village will be empty before the rains come. We will take and take and take until there is nothing left but dust and bones and the sound of weeping in the dark. Then they were gone. Not walking away. Just gone, like smoke pulled backward into nothing. Mama Adana stood there for a long time, staring at the empty space where they had been. The baby in her arms turned its head slowly and looked directly at my hiding place in the cassava bushes. Its black eyes found mine through the leaves. And it smiled. I ran. I ran all the way home and locked myself in our hut and didn't come out until sunrise. But I can still see that smile. I see it every time I close my eyes. The next moon would rise in 6 days. If you have really enjoyed this story up to this moment, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification button. Thank you. I need to go back to the beginning. To the day Mama Adana went into the forest. Because that's when everything started, even though we didn't know it yet. It was 4 months before the disappearances began. 4 months before those things came to her door. The dry season had just broken and the first rains were starting to fall. I remember because my mother sent me to Mama Adana's hut that morning to collect the dress she had been sewing for my sister Chioma's school ceremony. When I got there, Mama Adana was gone. Her sewing basket was overturned on the floor. 3 needles were scattered across the mat. The door was open and swinging in the wind. I called her name but got no answer. Old Mama Ekwensi from the next compound came over when she heard me shouting. She went into the forest, the old woman said. Her face was tight with worry. I saw her walk past at dawn, heading toward the sacred grove. I called to her but she didn't stop. She was walking like someone in a dream. My stomach went cold. Everyone knew about the sacred grove. It was deep in the forest, past the farms and the good hunting grounds, in a place where the trees grew so thick the sunlight barely touched the ground. The elders said it belonged to the spirits who had lived in the land before our people came. They said our ancestors had made a promise generations ago. We could farm the good soil and fish the river and hunt in the outer forest, but the grove was forbidden. Nothing was to be taken from that place. Not wood. Not water. Not fruit. Not even a fallen leaf. The old stories said the people who broke that law disappeared. Or came back changed. Wrong. Someone needs to bring her back, I said. Mama Ekwensi shook her head. If she went in of her own will, we cannot follow. That is the law. We wait. We waited all day. The sun climbed high and then started to sink. Women gathered in small groups, whispering. Men sharpened their machetes and pretended they weren't afraid. My mother made me come home but I kept watching the forest line from our window. Mama Adana came back just as the sun was setting. I saw her walking out from between the trees, and my first thought was that she looked different. She was smiling. Really smiling, in a way I hadn't seen in years. Her whole face was lit up like a bride on her wedding day. And she was carrying something wrapped in her headscarf. People came out of their huts as she walked through the village. Nobody spoke. We all just watched as she went straight to her home, went inside, and closed the door. My mother's grip on my shoulder was so tight it hurt. She took something, my mother whispered. God and the spirits help us, she took something from the sacred place. The elders came that same evening. I watched from the shadows as 7 old men stood outside Mama Adana's hut, demanding she come out. When she finally opened the door, she was holding a baby. Where did you get that child? Elder Obi asked. His voice was sharp as a blade. I found her, Mama Adana said. She was still smiling. In the grove. She was lying in a clearing, all alone, wrapped in leaves. She was crying and no one was there. No mother. No family. Just this precious one, abandoned and helpless. You went into the sacred grove. It wasn't a question. I heard her crying from the path. What kind of woman would I be if I left a baby to die? Elder Obi stepped closer and looked at the infant. His face went gray. That child was not abandoned. That child is not human. Look at it, Adana. Really look. But Mama Adana just pulled the baby closer. She is perfect. She is mine. After 15 years of empty arms, the spirits have finally given me a daughter. The spirits give nothing from that place. Elder Obi's voice rose. Everything in the sacred grove belongs to them. You have stolen from the boundary lands. You must take it back. Now. Tonight. Before the moon rises. No. Mama Adana's smile finally faded. I am keeping her. I am naming her Kalechi. My gift from God. The elders argued with her for an hour. They threatened. They pleaded. They warned her about the old stories, about the people who had taken things from the grove and the terrible prices they paid. But Mama Adana wouldn't listen. She went back inside her hut and barred the door. The elders left. Elder Obi stopped and turned to address the crowd that had gathered. Let it be known that Adana has chosen this path alone. What comes next, she has brought upon herself. No one is to help her. No one is to interfere. This is her burden. But it didn't work that way. Because 2 days later, strange things started happening. Animals began gathering around Mama Adana's hut. Crows lined her roof every morning, absolutely silent. Rats came out in daylight and sat in circles in her compound. Dogs refused to walk past her door. At night, people reported hearing singing coming from the forest, beautiful voices in a language no one recognized, calling and calling until dawn. And the baby never made a sound. I saw it myself when my mother forced me to deliver some plantains to Mama Adana. I stood in her doorway and watched that child lying in a crib made from palm wood. Its eyes were open, black and shining like water at night. It didn't blink. Didn't move. Just stared at the ceiling while its tiny chest rose and fell. Isn't she beautiful? Mama Adana asked. She looked so happy. So blind. I couldn't answer. Because in that moment, the baby slowly turned its head and looked directly at me. And I felt something cold wrap around my heart. Like fingers made of ice, squeezing. I ran home and told my mother I would never go back there. 3 weeks later, old Papa Chukwu disappeared from his locked bedroom. And we all understood that the price was beginning. After that night when those things came to Mama Adana's door, the village changed. People stopped going out after dark. Families slept in groups, pressed together in the center of their huts with lamps burning until dawn. Every morning we would count ourselves, terrified of finding someone gone. But the disappearances didn't stop. 2 days after the warning, the blacksmith's wife vanished while drawing water from the well. Her bucket was still tied to the rope, half raised, water spilling back down into the darkness. Her footprints led to the well's edge and then simply ended, as if she had stepped off the world. The next day it was one of the young men who had gone to check his traps in the forest. We found the traps untouched, but his machete was on the ground and there was a perfect circle of dead grass around it, like something had burned the life right out of the earth. 10 people gone. The elders called an emergency gathering in the village square. She must return the child, Elder Obi said. He looked like he had aged 10 years in 3 weeks. Before the next moon rises. Before we are all taken. But when we went to Mama Adana's hut, what we found made us understand how far gone she really was. She had covered every window with black cloth. Painted symbols on the walls in palm oil and ash, symbols none of us recognized. And she had built a shrine around the baby's crib, decorated with bones and feathers and things that looked like they had come from deep in the forest. The baby sat in the middle of it all, expressionless, those black eyes watching everything. You need to leave, Mama Adana said when we tried to enter. She stood in the doorway with a kitchen knife in her hand. All of you. You want to take my daughter. You want to leave me empty again. I won't allow it. Adana, please, my mother said. She had lost her daughter, my sister, to whatever this curse was. Her voice was breaking. Please. My Chioma is gone. The blacksmith's wife is gone. We are being harvested like crops. This has to end. Then leave the village, Mama Adana said. Run away. But I am staying here with my child. That is not a child. Elder Obi shouted. Look at it, woman. It has not grown a single inch in 4 months. It does not eat. Does not cry. Does not sleep. It just watches and waits while we die around you. Mama Adana's face twisted into something ugly. You're all jealous. You always have been. Jealous that I finally have what you take for granted. Well, you can't have her. She is mine. She slammed the door. That night, 3 more people disappeared. A mother and her 2 sons, taken from their hut while the father was outside trying to chase away the rats that had gathered on his roof. When he came back inside, they were simply gone. Their sleeping mats still warm. No sound. No struggle. Just empty space where his family had been. 13 people. 13 lives fed to the darkness. And the next moon would rise tomorrow. I couldn't sleep. None of us could. I lay on my mat listening to my mother weep for Chioma and my father sharpen his machete over and over, as if a blade could cut what was hunting us. Just before dawn, I made a decision. I went to Mama Adana's hut alone. I don't know what I thought I would do. Beg her, maybe. Or steal the baby and run it back to the forest myself. Something. Anything. But when I got close, I heard voices inside. I crept to the wall and pressed my ear to a gap in the wood. Mama Adana was talking to the baby. They want to take you away from me, she was saying. Her voice was soft, almost singing. But I won't let them. You're mine. You chose me, didn't you? When I heard you crying in the forest. When I saw you lying there so perfect and beautiful. You wanted me to find you. And then I heard something that turned my blood to ice. The baby answered. Its voice was wrong. Too old. Too knowing. Like rust and dry leaves and the sound of wind through empty skulls. Yes, mother. I chose you. Because your hunger was so strong. So desperate. It called to us from across the boundary. We heard your weeping. We felt your emptiness. And we knew you would take what we offered. I love you, Mama Adana whispered. I know, the thing said. That is why this works so well. Every person taken feeds the grove. Feeds me. Makes me stronger. Soon I will be strong enough to open the door fully. And then my brothers and sisters will come through. This village will become a garden for us. A feeding place. And you will be the mother of them all. I heard Mama Adana laugh. Actually laugh. How many more, she asked. Just a few. When the moon rises tonight, if the child still remains outside the grove, the covenant breaks completely. The boundary dissolves. After that, we take everyone. All at once. And we plant new seeds in the sacred place. I ran. I didn't think. I just ran straight to the elder's compound and told them everything I had heard. Elder Obi's face went hard as stone. Then we have no choice, he said. We go now. We take the child by force. And we burn that hut to the ground if we must. 20 men gathered. We went just as the sun was rising. But Mama Adana's hut was empty. The door hung open. The shrine was destroyed. And there was a trail leading into the forest. A trail marked with small footprints, too small to be Mama Adana's, walking on their own into the trees. The baby had walked itself back home. We found Mama Adana 3 days later, at the edge of the sacred grove. She was sitting against a tree, staring at nothing, her mouth open in a silent scream. She was alive but her mind was gone. Completely gone. She didn't recognize anyone. Didn't speak. Just sat and stared and sometimes smiled at things we couldn't see. The disappearances stopped that same day. But sometimes, late at night, people hear singing from the forest. And sometimes children are born in the village with eyes that don't quite reflect light properly. With smiles that last too long. We know it's waiting. We know the boundary is thinner now. And we know that hunger, real desperate hunger, can make you blind to what's really being offered when you find something precious in a place where nothing should be taken. Mama Adana still lives. We keep her fed. We keep her safe. But she's not really here anymore. She's somewhere else. Somewhere between the world we know and the place she stole from. Sometimes I think that's a worse punishment than disappearing. I'm telling you this story because I need you to understand something. There are rules in this world. Old rules. Rules that were made in blood and fear and promises we don't remember anymore. And when you break them, when you take what doesn't belong to you because you want it badly enough, the price isn't always paid by you alone. It spreads like poison. It takes everyone around you. My sister is gone. 13 people are gone. And Mama Adana is alive but empty, a warning that walks and breathes. If this story scared you, if it made something cold touch your spine, then good. That means you're listening. Share this. Tell others. And if you've ever heard singing from a forest where no one should be, or found something too perfect in a place that feels wrong, leave it there. Just leave it there and walk away. Some gifts are not gifts at all. If you really enjoyed this video to this point, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification button to be notified when we uploaded our next video. Thank you.